Look, the debate over the reopening of schools amid the COVID-19 pandemic rages on. This week, the Basic Education Minister, Angie Motshekga, announced that June 1st as the proposed date of return of school for grade 7s and grade 12s. KwaZulu-Natal has the highest number of matriculants from its 2.8 million overall figure of learners in the province's education system. Now, joining us via Skype to talk more about this week's announcement and how it will impact the province, we're joined by the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Education, Kwazi Mshengu. Mr. Mshengu, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Good morning and good morning to the viewers of SABC.
So let me say, let's take it step by step. First of all, the implication of what the minister announced in terms of the proposed measures, in terms of the proposed date, June 1st. Are you confident we can get our learners back to school at that time, on that date?
Well, we're quite confident as the province of KwaZulu-Natal that by the 1st of June, we'll be ready in terms of the systems and all of our schools to reopen for grade 12 as well as grade 7. It has always been our view as the province of KwaZulu-Natal that we needed to prioritize grade 12 in particular and grade 7 so that it also gives us the space to comply with all the regulations as well as the precautionary measures. Because if you were to bring back the whole system, as you correctly said that in the province of KwaZulu-Natal we have just above 2.8 million learners. So it will mean we are basically going to be flouting all the regulations and all the precautionary measures. But the phased-in approach, which prioritizes grade 12 and grade 7, in the view of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, will be ready by the 1st of June. Already, since the announcement by the minister, I have held 2 meetings with the senior management, visual meetings, to start really preparing the sector so that by the 1st of June, there is not a single school that will have to open without complying with all the non-negotiables as well as the precautionary measures, as it were.
There's some disturbing, concerning numbers being thrown at us in terms of infrastructure in various parts of the country. And one of the provinces that has been identified in terms of critical water supply or lack of critical water supply is KwaZulu-Natal. We know that there's over 3,000 schools that are in desperate need. They've been identified in terms of this critical water supply challenges. What's the situation in your province?
Well, we're not far from that dire need, as we have correctly described as the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Our province is quite rural, and our schools are actually a reflection of those socio-economic conditions in rural areas where they still lack proper water and sanitation, they still lack roads, electricity, and all of those things. But insofar as the water is concerned, particularly during this period, I can confirm that the National Department of Water and Sanitation has actually indicated since yesterday that they will be providing KwaZulu-Natal with 4,500 static water tanks, which means that all our schools that will be opening on the 1st of June will have static water tanks. And currently we are in discussion with the MEC for KZN to ensure that all the municipalities are able to deposit water into those static water tanks on a daily basis so that there's not a single day where there are learners or educators in a school part without running water so that they continuously wash their hands and comply with the safety measures during this period of COVID-19.
You had a raft of schools that were vandalized since the lockdown began in your province. What sort of impact will that have in terms of reopening schools?
Well, that has actually put us under a very severe strain financially as the department. And I do need to indicate that we are now suspecting that we are dealing with a real criminal syndicate, which may be informed by some nefarious as well as great economic aspirations. And why do we say this? Is because we're noticing a new trend where valuables are not stolen in school, they simply ban the school. The last 3 schools that were banned over the past 7 days, actually there were no valuables that were taken from those schools, but the schools were set alight. So we do believe that there is this criminal syndicate which wants to strong arm the government into a particular direction. But insofar as the pressure that it brings during this period, we'll now have to procure mobile classrooms for equally to the number of those classes that were banned, so that we ensure that all the learners are actually in the school. But I also do need to indicate that during this period, will not be required to procure a number of mobile classrooms to ensure social distancing, because we're only dealing with 2 grades. As a way of example, there's a school that has about 28 classes and only 260 matriculants. So those matriculants will be spread according to those classrooms, and that applies also to grade 7. So in this period, will not really be required to procure more additional mobile classrooms. But going forward, we'll have to do that so that there's not a learner who's not without a class.
I just want to go back to the schools that have been vandalized. We spoke about 2 weeks ago with regards to this problem. What sort of headway has been made? Any arrests with regards to these vandalized schools?
Yes, we can say that since the lockdown, actually there's been over 225 schools that have been vandalized.
Yeah.
And in that period, thanks to the committee members who came forward with the information, 9 suspects have been arrested. We are hoping that we can get more suspects also arrested. I have taken the issue with the MEC for community safety in the province to say we need more involvement of the police. We need more police convictions, or rather police to arrest more suspects, so that we can send a strong message. Yesterday, I also had a discussion with the Minister for Justice, Honorable Lamola, where I was raising the issue that there has been a number of arrests that have been made, but there are no progress insofar as the cases are concerned. He undertook that he's going to engage with the NPA. They are going to look for dockets so that we start really seeing prosecution as well as conviction, so that we send a clear message to the criminals that they are facing the all might of law. But we also do want to encourage community members to isolate these criminals, not harbour them, and continue to give necessary information to law enforcement agencies.
Right. MEC, look, there's still a lot of unknowns with regards to COVID-19, but there are knowns. What we know at this stage in terms of how it affects children, how it affects the elderly. In children, they seem to have less severe symptoms. We know that it is more serious in terms of those over the age of 60. Have you done your homework in terms of finding out how many teachers do you have over the age of 60, and how will they be catered for when they go back to school?
Well, we do have statistics of teachers as well as their age group. As I'm saying that we are working hard to ensure that we take care of those areas, because they have been raised sharply by the unions, but also the health experts that have been consulted by the Department of Education has made it clear that there must be particular provisions for teachers who may have underlying illnesses, as well as those who may be reaching that particular age of 60 or so. So as we open the sector on the 1st, on Monday, I will be receiving a clear statistics from the HR to say this is the number of teachers that we have in that fall within those categories, and how best do we deal with those who have underlying illnesses, so that we also don't compromise the issue of confidentiality, because each and every teacher will have to respect that confidentiality level.
Have you crunched the numbers, MEC, with regards to, for instance, how many bottles of sanitizer you need, how many water tanks you need for schools that don't have water supply, a reliable water supply? What I'm trying to basically get at is that, can it be done in this proposed time frame that you guys have been given?
It will surely be done. There's no question about that in our view. In terms of the water provisions, we had already planned as a province of KwaZulu-Natal way before the announcement by the minister, and we knew that we'll need about 4,500 static water tanks so that we cover all our schools, and those have been confirmed by the Department of Water and Sanitation. We have also received an additional 250 donation of static water tanks, so we are covered in that area. In terms of sanitizers, we are going to punch numbers of our classes, because each and every class must have at the door the hand sanitizers. so that learners are able to sanitize their hands as and when they get into the classroom. But I can say that we will be very strict in terms of adhering to all the non-negotiables. When you get into a gate, all learners, all educators, and everyone who comes into the school will have to go through the screening first, and all our classes will be sanitized every day. Yes, it's a tall order. It will require a lot of financial injections, but we are left with no choice. That is why we had also indicated in the previous days that it will have now to rechannel some funds that were earmarked for certain projects during this year, so that we cater for these COVID-19 essentials. Some projects now will have to be postponed, and unfortunately, that's the way things will have to happen, so that we don't compromise the safety of educators as well as our learners.
Yeah, you would agree with me when we say we can't mess around with the children. We can't mess around with the kids, especially the younger ones going back to school eventually when they do go back to school. And I worry about, the social distancing issues. Fair enough, you tell them that they need to wear masks. I mean, I was just looking at my child yesterday trying on the various masks that my wife was trying to sew for him. And he was battling. He's 9 years old. I just wonder how teachers are going to be handling this when these youngsters go back to school and you tell them they need to be about 1.5 meters or 2 meters away from their friends who they've never haven't seen in months. Practically, how would that work?
It will indeed be difficult for teachers, but we do believe that they will be equal to the task. It's also called for the active involvement of parents to educate these kids in terms of how to put a mask and how to observe social distance. Mm-hmm. But in our view also, schools will become safe environment for these learners, because some of them, in fact, if not the majority, they are just on the streets playing with each other, loitering around and all of that. And I personally observed them as I'm working around in and around eThekwini township and all of that. These kids are on the streets. They are playing in an unsafe environment. But in the school environment, that will be completely safe, because we will be providing providing them with masks. Each learner will get about 2 masks. They will be screened every day. The environment in the school will be sanitized every day. They will be forced to observe social distances in the classroom. So the environment in the school is far better than the environment in the streets where we will find them now.
Yeah, we were speaking to Professor Abdul Karim yesterday, and he was talking to us about the risk, which is everywhere. So I guess the measures put in place in order to limit this risk is very, very important. Sir, we thank you very much indeed for your time. No doubt we'll have you back on the program to get an update on where we are in terms of reopening of schools. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, that was KwaZulu-Natal Education MEC Kwazi Mshengu.